Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are on page 35 of your student journal, and our objective for the day is, today I will subtract using different strategies to solve word problems. Okay, so our goal is today I will subtract using different strategies to solve word problems. Okay, let's look at our vocabulary before we get started. The first word we see is difference. Now, because we're going to be subtracting, that is a subtraction word. It says the solution to a subtraction problem. So for example, 9 minus 2, the difference or the answer is, 9 minus 7, the answer is 2. So difference is your solution, which means your answer. Okay, strategies are just different ways of doing it. This is kind of a key word here, the inverse operation. So the inverse operations for addition is subtraction. So they're the opposite operation. So for example, it says 869 take away 397 equals something. We could also use those same numbers and put it into an addition problem. So 397 minus whatever the difference was would give us the whole. And I think a better way to see that is in this number bond strategy. So let's look at this number bond strategy. It says the top circle or top box represents the whole, and the two smaller circles represent the parts. So 397 plus 372 will give me the whole. Or I could say 869 minus one of the parts gives me the other part. So that's where the inverse operation comes in. The tape-like diagram is similar to this, it's just written differently. So this is the one that we're going to be working with more, is we're gonna look at this number bond strategy just so we can see the relationship between all of the numbers that we're dealing with. Okay, I'm going to get started with my red pen, which means you could put down your pencil and you could watch. Here is my first problem, and my first problem says, Mr. Smith traveled 486 miles last year. Mr. Sipperly traveled 978 miles. How many more miles did Mr. Sipperly travel than Mr. Smith? Okay, when I see how many more, that is keywords telling me this is a subtraction problem. This how many more is my keywords that jump out at me. Okay, so what I notice is the whole, the large number, is 978. Okay, now that is how much is Mr. Sipperly traveled. Mr. Smith traveled 486, and then this is going to be the how much more, because if I added what Mr. Smith traveled plus the how much more did he travel, I'm going to get the whole. So when I look at this, I know that I need to know 486 plus something's going to give me that. So 486 plus, I don't know what it is, will give me 978. But that's really hard to solve. So I could change this to the inverse operation and say my whole minus one of my parts is going to give me my answer. Now I'm going to solve, because I can't solve this in my head, so I'm going to put this in working form. And once it's in working form, then I can solve. So when I put it in working form, I want to make sure that I line up my columns. So my ones, my tens, and my hundreds are lined up, and then I'm ready to go. So 8 take away 6 is 2. 7 take away 8 is not possible. So I'm going to regroup, and this is going to become an 8. And then when I add this, becomes a 17. So now I have 17 take away 8 is 9, and 8 take away 4 is 4. So the other part is 492. So the two parts equaled my whole. So Mr. Sipperly traveled 492 more miles than Mr. Smith. Okay, let's look at another one of these. This says Joanna and Vion were playing a game. Joanna had $574. Joanna landed on Vion's property, so she paid $145 for rent. How much money does Joanna have now? Okay, so I could set it up using the number bond strategy, or I could do the tape diagram. They're the same idea. The top is going to be my whole, which is how much Joanna had, which is 574. And then my two parts are 145, and I don't know this part. So this is how much she had, this is what she paid, and we want to know what's left, what's the other part. So I know that my two parts have to equal my whole. My two parts equal my whole, but the inverse of that would be my whole minus one of the parts is going to equal the other part. Okay, so now I can put this in working form. 574, take away 145, and then we can solve. So we have 4 take away 5 is impossible. So I'm going to regroup. This is going to become a 6, and this is going to become a 14. 14 take away 5 is 9. 6 take away 4 is 2. And 5 take away 1 is 4. So Joanna has $429 left. Those are my two parts that equal my whole. And that's money, so I can add a money symbol. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's try some together. We are on page 36 of your student journal, page 36, and I'm going to put down my red pen and grab my green pen, which means I'd like you to join me. Okay, so let's read it first. It says, Jane watched 562 minutes of TV in April. She watched 702 minutes of TV in May. How many more minutes of TV did she watch in May? And again, here's our key words, how many more, that tells us this is going to be a subtraction problem. Okay, so our whole is our largest number, which is 702. And then we have one of the parts, which is 562. We don't have the other part. We don't know what this other part is. What I do know, though, is 562 plus my other part is going to equal my whole. Now, that also tells me my inverse of this is 702 minus, or take away one of my parts, is going to tell me my other part. So this is the algorithm that we're going to use. So let's set that up in working form. 702, take away 562. Make sure your columns for your ones, tens, and hundreds are nicely lined up. And then we can get started. So 2, take away 2 is 0. 0, take away 6 is not possible, so let's regroup. So this 7 is going to become a 6, and this 0 will become a 10. So 10 take away 6 is 4, and 6 take away 5 is 1. So my other part is 140. So she watched 140 more minutes. because my word problem is discussing minutes, and that is my answer. Okay, remember, boys and girls, if there's any time that I'm going too fast, you want to pause your video and make sure your notes are caught up, because everything that I wrote in green, you should have written in your pencil. Okay, let's go on to our next problem then. Okay, Keyshawn lives 1,000 miles from his grandparents. James lives 872 miles from his grandparents. How much farther from his grandparents does Keyshawn live? Okay, again, how much farther is our key words that this is a subtraction problem. Okay, so our whole, and let's set this up as the tape diagram. Our whole is 1,000. That's how much he lives. Now, James lives 872, and here is going to be the other part. So we know that my 2 parts equal my whole. So this plus this has to equal the whole, but we could also do the inverse and set it up as a subtraction. So the whole, take away one of the parts, equals the other part. So 1,000 take away 872 must equal this other part. Okay, that's going to be, then let's set this up. When you set this up, you have a 4-digit problem, and you're subtracting a 3-digit problem. So make sure you've lined up your ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. Okay, there's going to be a lot of regrouping for this one, because 0 take away 2 is not possible. And when I go to my tens to regroup, there are none. And when I go to my hundreds to regroup, there are none. So what's going to happen is that's going to become a 0, and this will become a 10. And I'm so sorry, my marker's a little fat. That should be a 10. Now, I could regroup the 10 and make it a 9, and this could become a 10. Okay, but I still need some in my ones place, so I could regroup this 10, make it a 9, and this could become a 10. That's a lot of regrouping, ladies and gentlemen, so make sure you stop the video and you have the correct numbers. And if you needed to hear that again, you could rewind the video to listen again. So we have 10 take away 2 is 8. We have 9 take away 7 is 2. We have 9 take away 8 is 1. And 0 take away nothing is 0. So my other part is 128, and then my 2 parts equal my whole. So 128 miles is our answer. Okay, so Keyshawn lives 128 miles farther than James lives from his grandparents. Okay, boys and girls, your teacher is going to have you try a few of these on your own. Make sure you use our notes to help you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.